Okay, so this video is relating to case study 1 of chapter 4 in the design and manufacture chapter of the textbook, and it's on the toothbrush. Okay, so the case study starts out and it's basically discussing effectively design criteria or design specifications. Quite a lot of the time in the exam you'll find you get questions that are asking you to specify what functions or what criteria, design criteria that you'd want for a product. Okay, now in this case the toothbrush, they are offering things like function to obviously actually clean your teeth or provide oral cleaning. The environment is important because obviously it is in the environments where it's used is obviously going to have water. When you add water to the toothpaste, there's obviously chemicals involved with the toothbrush brush itself, and the actual force that you need to apply to push the bristles across your teeth and things, and obviously aspects of durability and hardness and stuff will be a factor here as well. Life expectancy is another factor that they bring in, where toothbrushes generally, dentists advise you change it around every 6 to 8 weeks. It says consumer preferences, so things like colour, aesthetic appeal. Newer toothbrushes that have special aesthetic details, or if it's aimed at a particular consumer group, you might be changing the design of the brush to sort of suit them as well. And obviously cost. It's normally a low cost item, but obviously some toothbrushes that offer more advanced features, such as, I don't know, maybe a tongue cleaning facility or sort of special types of bristles, they might go up to perhaps £5. Okay, now there's some useful specification points, but obviously if the product changes, you have to be able to adapt your design criteria to suit the actual product that you're doing. Now, what they've talked about here is function, environment, life expectancy, consumer preferences and cost. Okay, but I always tend to think Access FM as in aesthetics, cost, environment, safety size, function and materials are always good starting points to springboard in to writing the design specification. So if we said aesthetics, for example, that would link into our toothbrush needing to be brightly coloured perhaps. If we talked about perhaps safety, that might link to the the materials being used being non-toxic and so on and so forth. So if you do get stuck, this is always a good way to start thinking about design criteria, and obviously just literally going through a sort of a day in the life of using the product and how it would be used. Now, the main process used for producing the toothbrush, in fact the handle effectively, is the injection moulding process. Now there are details in the injection moulding process in your book, and there's likely to be videos on this later in the series, but effectively the injection moulding process is perfect for using thermoplastics. Now, in the case of the toothbrush shown, this is made from PMMA, okay, or acrylic if it's abbreviated. Its full term is polymethyl methacrylate. Okay, you don't need to know that, but you do obviously need to use the term acrylic or PMMA. Okay, both would be acceptable as an exam answer. So often I find the abbreviations are a good way to remember some of these polymers and sort of types of plastics and things. Okay, so in the case of the thermoplastic, if it's moulded, it obviously goes to a point where it can be heated up and softened, and this is ideal for injection moulding because then it can be injection moulded into a very complex form, because obviously toothbrushes need to be sort of ergonomic. They often have grips on them and they need to be rounded and things so they don't damage the insides of your mouth or your gum line, for example. So obviously that ability to make this really complex shape means really injection moulding is the only sort of process that you could really use for this. Okay, if we do want to improve it so to make it more preferential for the consumer, within the injection moulding process we can combine pigments in with the polymer granules into the hopper of the injection moulding machine. And the other benefit, due to the high quantity of such a sort of a cheap product or disposable product like this, injection moulding is very cost effective. And you'll see the fact that when they're creating a mould for injection moulding, they'll probably have a mould that has many cavities, as in you might make 4 or 5 toothbrushes in one shot from an injection mould. Now you might also have multiple sort of moulds to over mould on a toothbrush, or potentially do dual shot injection moulding. Now in the case of over moulding, this is a process that's detailed in your AQA book on page 116. and it's within the injection molding process, okay, again using thermoplastics. But in the case of the toothbrush, you might have, say, acrylic as the base handle that provides sort of a rigid, sort of firm grip and things, okay. But if you want to apply a sort of a softer surface, newer toothbrushes often have thermoplastic elastomer, or TPE, okay. That's like a thermoplastic rubber, I suppose, or operates a bit like a rubber. Also offers the same benefits as thermoplastics, okay. And obviously in over molding, what would happen is the initial toothbrush would be molded first, and then that would be taken out of the mold, put into a second mold where the TPE would be molded or over molded over the top to give the two different plastics and that over molded finish, okay. The example toothbrush obviously has grooves on it as well to enhance the sort of grip, but the over moulding can obviously go into these grooves as well to obviously stay in the cavity there, okay. Now with the TPE, okay, it could also potentially be dual shot injector molded, where you'd have kind of two types of plastics injected in the same cycle, and the bristles, which would be a sort of a separate component, are probably molded around with the acrylic to actually hold them in place and keep them tight, okay. And the use of nylon as or polyamide material will obviously offer benefits in terms of material properties of toughness, so it will withstand the sort of shock of striking your teeth. They have a bit of stiffness, so they won't bend too easily, and they have inherent sort of strength, which will obviously stop them from breaking and things as the top of the toothbrush is being used, okay. To summarise this, okay, obviously acrylic provides a good sort of starting point. It offers the ability to provide colours, or you might want a transparent toothbrush, which it can also do. It's sufficiently strong for the use. It's resistant to water. Obviously most polymers are sort of resistant to water, but it's also resistant to the sort of chemicals used with the toothpaste. And if you're going to use the thermoplastic elastomer, it's going to be sort of soft feel. It could be colourful again, just like the acrylic, or to produce contrasting colours, and it will also make it nice and grippy to use as well. And the nylon bristles, as we said, they will be rigid and obviously have strength and rigidity as well.